Hello and welcome to another episode of the Unwanted Opinions podcast. Jay and I are joined actually tonight by a good buddy of ours, Levi, so we're going to talk to him about some draft stuff. He's a huge Dolphins fan, so we want to get his thoughts on the Dolphins made a whole bunch of free agents acquisitions, and we're going to talk about the quarterbacks. They hold like 67 picks in the first 3 rounds of the next 2 drafts, so we'll get his thoughts on some of that. But first, just want to give a huge shout out to a new partnership that Jay and I have mentioned with. It's called FNX Fitness, and our listeners actually get 15% off if you use the promo code FNXUOP. They have everything from protein to pre-workout. So far, I've ordered the vanilla milkshake whey protein. It's a great product. It's got great flavor. It's 22 grams of protein in every scoop. So go check them out. Again, that's fnxfit.com. You can use our promo code FNXUOP at checkout and get a 15% off your entire purchase. So Jay, Levi, how you guys doing tonight, man?
Good, dude. I'm glad you do the reads because I probably would have screwed that up like 18 times.
Especially acquisition, you definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm here, Jay.
For sure.
All right. So, as I mentioned, Levi, we've got you joining us tonight. You're a huge Dolphin fan, and we want to hear you're a bigger Tua fan than Jay and I are. I think everybody pretty much knows what Jay and I think of Tua, how we view him. I'm going to give you the floor because I want to hear your arguments of why he's either the best quarterback in the draft, why you want him on the Dolphins over like a Justin Herbert or a Burrow or somebody like that, Jordan Love, to name a few.
Well, I'm going to start. Me and Jesse, before we went on the air, we were talking about his injuries and how Jesse thinks because of the players he's going to be playing against, if he can't stay healthy in college, there's no way he stays healthy in the pros. Before I start, I want to ask Jesse, are you more concerned about the hip or are you more concerned about the ankles?
The hip, dude. The hip is all that I've read, clearly I'm not a doctor, is the hip is so hit and miss whether you'll ever get full flexibility back in it after an injury like that. And from what I saw when it first happened was he had one of the worst hip injuries a player has suffered in a long, long, long time. So to me, I think of a player like Bo Jackson, how he was never the same after his hip injury. Granted, I get that he runs a lot more than Tua does. Tua, as a pocket passer, runs when he can. But I'm way more concerned about his hip than his ankles. But if you don't pigeonhole it, because I'm concerned about everything when he gets to the league. His ankles, his hip, his shoulder, his back, everything that's going to be exposed to these 6'5", 240 pounds.
I mean, you can't forget about the knee as well. I believe he had a knee surgery in college too.
So the hips, the Bo Jackson thing, do you think 20, 25 years ago has anything to play with it into it too? Like the medical
it definitely does.
We've made since
I agree that you see today's ACLs aren't even really a concern anymore because of people like Adrian Peterson, who comes back in like 5 months running full speed and then wins player of the year.
That's because the ACL injury was so prevalent for how many years was that where it's like big name after big name after big name would go down with an ACL injury. Let me give you a name that rings a little bit closer to home than Bo Jackson, okay? And this is what kind of put it in perspective for me was Dennis Pitta had these very similar injury to Tua. And you remember when he first got into the NFL for the Ravens, I thought he was going to be the next good tight end in the league.
He had Oregon.
I don't know where he went to college.
I actually don't know where he went, but he was awesome. That was Joe Flacco's dude.
He's had the same hip injury. Now, I stumbled across that article probably 2 weeks ago, and my narrative for Tua has kind of shifted since then. I still think he's the best quarterback in the draft, but when we're thinking about risk versus reward, any player we're drafting, there's a certain level of risk, right? Let's think about it. Joe Burrow had one great year of college football, right?
True.
I agree.
And so in the same aspect of, okay, sure, he can dominate at the college level, but can he continue that in the NFL, in the pros, right?
That's a good question.
What he did to dominate translates.
Okay,
I think injuries also translate.
Let's talk about translating, okay? I think Joe Burrow, and I've said this to you guys before, okay? When you look at Joe Burrow's talent level that he had surrounded by versus Tua's, it's not that big of a gap.
Jahmyr Chase,
Jefferson, Thaddeus Moss, it's not as – I still think the receivers that you have are better, but I think that they're not as far as people think they are. I mean, Ja'Marr Chase could be the number one receiver taken next year.
I think Jamar Chase is the best out of that group now.
I do not, but
So
Nick has been
Tua,
on that side.
so let me get to Tua here. Now, Tua, sure, he had these game breakers on the outside, but when you watch the throws and you watch the pocket movement and the throwing on the run, I'm not so concerned about his injuries for the simple fact of how well he does move outside of the pocket and gets away from people. I think this hip injury was just an absolute freak injury, right? I mean, there's only been three cases of it that have made spotlight. One, which Dennis Pitta, I had to dig for. We think Bo Jackson, we think Tua, right?
Okay, so you say there's 3 total, right?
That I have found.
Yeah, that are
And
like
those,
major
hold on, of those
stars.
3,
Yeah,
how
I'm talking
many
major
came
stars.
back and played well after it happened?
Dennis Pitta re-injured. That's why I'm saying my narrative
And
is
Bo
sort of
Jackson
shifted.
was never the same.
Yeah, and
It did
that's why
happen
my
later in
narrative
those
is sort of
guys'
shifted.
careers, though. To be fair
Pitta.
to
No,
Tua,
Pitta's happened early.
I think.
Pitta
I mean,
happened his first 2 seasons.
are you sure?
Yeah, Pitta only played 5 or 7 seasons.
So on to your Tua point. It's shifted. Your narrative shifted a little bit. You still think he's QB1 through pure talent, I'm guessing.
I think he's QB1A, and I think Joe Burrow's QB1B. But if I'm given a choice between the two, I'm taking Tua because I have seen what he is capable of in multiple years. I've only seen Joe Burrow 1 year, and then the whole who did he lose his job? Who was it? Dwayne Haskins. Is that who they chose over Burrow?
Yep.
I think Burrow was the better college quarterback than Haskins.
Agreed.
I do believe that.
I wanted Burrow to start for Ohio State over Haskins.
Mhm.
So my question for Burrow is why?
Why what?
Why do you lose that? Why did Haskins get the nod?
I don't
Maybe you do know
know
that.
for sure, but I was told that when Haskins decided to make his switch to Ohio State, his dad he was on the coaching staff or had something to do with the area, and they had made a promise to him, and they went with Haskins over Burrow because it was close and they had already made promises or something. I don't know. What I read was there was something going on behind the scenes that had nothing to do with football is why Haskins got that job.
Yeah, I saw that it was
close, and then they went with him because of a non-football promise.
Yeah, well, didn't Joe get a little banged up in spring train or like the spring or something like that?
A little tiny injury.
Yeah,
and he
then
still was playing well in the spring game. He went blow for blow with Haskins.
Yeah, and then exactly that's what I there was some little small thing that they kind of blamed it on, and then Joe was just like, well, screw this. If it's not even I earned my starting space, but if it's not even anything to do with football, I'm out of here.
Yeah, and I mean, he needed to go somewhere because Haskins was the younger quarterback, so he had more eligibility than Burrow did. So if you're going to lose your spot to him, you're probably not ever going to play again for Ohio State. So he transferred. Clearly, he did the right thing. And his first year at LSU, they didn't have Joe Brady. They were not running a pro-style offense. They were running under center, just hand the ball off.
They were running Ed Orgeron's offense,
where the receivers are not getting open for nothing. They're not running NFL routes. It was just
Are they going back to that? You think they're going to go back to that because they lost Brady?
Yeah, I don't know. I hope to God they had someone under him that was watching, paying attention, taking notes, and going to continue that offense.
The Tua thing here. I want to talk to you about that. His career at Alabama outside the pocket is 66%. Now here's what concerns me is he has Ruggs and he has Judy and he has those guys who know how to work back to the quarterback. Okay,
I don't even care about working back to the quarterback. I feel like
accuracy
60% of his throws were to guys that didn't have a DB within 5 yards.
Yeah. And I believe 66% of his yards came from yards after the catch.
And I mean, to be honest with you, that is just the scheme of how they run their offense. Okay?
It is.
So, but when I watch the plays where they do throw the ball, and I do watch Tua, I watch him throw on the run, I watch him throw moving to his left, I watch him throw moving to his right. I think he's going to be in the league longer than I think Burrow will be. I think Burrow won't be in the league nearly as long as Tua, if Tua can stay healthy. Granted, if Tua has injuries, you can't really see that coming. You can sit here and say, oh, because he's had injuries, he's going to have more injuries, right? You can say that, but no one really knows. I mean,
you can go back and see there is a correlation from guys who stay injured in college usually stay injured in the NFL. I think that is a huge risk somebody's taking with Tua. I've never said that Tua is not accurate. I want that to be known. I think Tua is a very accurate quarterback.
In the draft.
But I also, like I said earlier, think that all the guys he's throwing to, majority of the time, are what you would consider wide open in football terms,
Yes.
to where you don't have to make that accurate of a pass. The real big concern with me outside of injuries, go watch games where guys are in his face, like at LSU. He is not good when pressure gets in his face. If he doesn't sense the blitz before and get the ball out fast, he is very bad when defenders are right there in his face and he has to stand in the pocket and make the throw. He almost never completes a deep ball when somebody's right there about to smack him.
I'm going to tell you this. He actually, Joe Burrow has the best percentage under pressure, and then Justin Herbert, and then Anthony Gordon, who I really, really like. And I'm going to tell you about that later.
I need to watch him. I haven't even sat down to watch him.
And Jalen Hurts is after Anthony Gordon.
So you see all the guys above Tua?
And then it's Tua.
And my thing about Tua, he completes his underneath. Look at the pass. I want to see it. I want to see that number on deep throws, because he just does not complete them when there's guys right in his face.
This is for last year. This is for 2019.
Yeah. My biggest thing on Tua is I just need to see him play where he doesn't have the 11 best players on offense, including himself.
He's going to get that chance in
Miami. And I really need to see that. Exactly, because he's going to go to a team who their offensive line, as you know, is sort of patchworked right now. They've got some holes to fill on that offensive line. They don't really have any sort of a run game. I don't know if it was a lot of just Fitzpatrick making stuff happen out of his ass like he's done his entire career that helped him win 5 games last year, because he's going to go to a situation where it's not – he's got like 6 guys going in the NFL this year, and he's got arguably the greatest head coach in college football history. I don't even know if it's arguable anymore.
Account for Alex Leatherwood, who's not going pro on that offensive line, who will be a first-rounder next year. Their right guard, who absolutely demolished one of the top defensive tackles when I was watching one of the games. Like, I don't even know his name.
And Najee Harris is going back to school too. He would have been a top running back drafted. So
still have Jalen Waddle.
And like I said, I don't think I think he's good. I think he's going to be a solid starter in the league. I just don't see superstar like a lot of people do. I don't see that superstar.
I agree.
You see superstar in Joe Burrow, because Joe Burrow's his cockiness is getting. I can't stand it.
But I feel very weary of him going to Cincinnati, because we've seen exactly what Cincinnati has done to many quarterbacks and players just over their entire career. Carson Palmer has not one nice word to say about that whole entire franchise, the owners, everything. The training staff, the training facility, you name it. Carson Palmer has trashed that for years. So I just feel bad for Joe Burrow going there.
So what's your ideal landing spot for Joe Burrow?
He's going to Cincinnati.
He's going to Cincinnati.
No, I'm just saying, if you had to look to the draft picks, where do you think Joe Burrow would be most successful at?
Almost anywhere outside of Cincinnati.
Don't say it, Jay. Don't say it.
I think he'd be more successful in Miami than he would in Cincinnati.
I agree too.
Because at least Miami's shown willingness to spend money. They have a good head coach in Brian Flores, who really shocked me last year. I was really impressed with him last year, to be honest. And if the Chargers are a dumpster fire, but I think he'd be more successful there than he would in Cincinnati. People just go to Cincinnati and die. Their careers just die.
Do you think Tua's going to the Dolphins 100%, Levi?
I do. I do. Unless some unforeseen massive trade happens that doesn't include Miami, I think it's all but sign the contract at this point.
So do you think they move up to get him?
I think they're going to have to.
I do too.
I think they're just worried about other teams jumping them.
Yeah, and they're doing a really good. I think they're doing a really good job at the smoke screens, because I read an article today that the Dolphins prefer Tua, but they'd be happy with Herbert. They're all this stuff's just coming out.
You're not buying that.
I'm not buying it either.
No. I was asking because I have no idea whether that's true or not.
What if somebody jumps the Dolphins for Tua, and you guys are still at 5 and Herbert's available? Are you mad if the Dolphins take Justin Herbert?
Mad's not the right word, because
disappointed.
Obviously I love my Dolphins. It would be probably disappointed. I love my Dolphins, but of course I'm going to go into it with some optimism. I'm not a huge fan of Herbert. But I do look at some things that I do like. His adjusted accuracy for last year was 73%. That's a really high number. And put that in perspective, it's the same exact. It's a little less than Tua, but it's just right underneath Joe Burrow. He's 61% completion percentage under pressure too. So
he was good.
Big,
I'm a huge fan of
strong,
Justin Herbert. I think
fast.
he's my QB number 2 behind Joe Burrow.
Yeah,
not my two.
I don't know. I don't know how I'd feel about him, but obviously we drafted Tannehill, and I supported Tannehill all the way to the end. So of course, no matter who we take in the draft, I'm going to support him to the end because that's just who I am.
It's your team.
Yeah, but I wouldn't be upset. I would be some optimism, but I'd be disappointed because we've been hearing 2 years now that hey, Miami's in love with Tua.
Tank for Tua. It was a slogan this year.
Yep.
I don't know. I honestly, all we've been hearing is Detroit trading out of number 3 for whoever wants to go up and get that quarterback. I would not be surprised if Washington makes a trade for somebody to go up to number 2 to get Tua because, think Chase Young is fantastic. Yes, but Washington, that's their strength of their team is that front seven. They don't need Chase Young. They need more players than anyone on their front seven. Their front seven's fine, and they're going to improve now that they got a defensive guy in Ron Rivera.
Front seven is, maybe a top 10
unit. It is
unit.
Alabama U. But
it really is.
If you could trade back to still be in the top 10 and pick up another first-round pick, a couple future picks with a brand-new head coach whose job is likely secure and probably has his hand in making the picks. I know Snyder has not really taken a backseat.
I think he's sort of learning to relinquish some control.
There's no way Ron Rivera's taken that job
That's what I was getting at.
There's no way that the head coach of that pedigree is going to take that job unless he said, "Hey, look."
Agreed.
Exactly.
But if you want to win, I know how to do it.
Agreed.
And clearly, they have more needs than a defensive end. So I would not put it past Washington to move down a couple spots, pick up more picks to get more players to help out Dwayne Haskins, that offense, maybe improve their offensive line a little bit because we still have no idea what Trent Williams is going to do. I don't think he's publicly came out and said
he wants out of there
for them next year. Exactly.
He said, "I'm gone." He said, "I don't want to play here." Let me kick you this scenario, both of you guys. What do you think of this?
Adrian Peterson. Go ahead.
All right, so Washington's sitting there at 2. They can go grab, all right, let's just throw it this way. They trade out of 2. Say they trade with Miami. Miami moves up to 2 because they're afraid of anybody jumping them at Detroit or whatever. So they're just going to hit the nail in the coffin and say, we're going to get our guy. We're going to get Tua at 2. Washington goes back to 5. You're going to get, say, a Chase Young or a Jeff Okudah or an Isaiah Simmons there for Washington. Go pick up Cam Newton. Ron Rivera's got that. He's got that pedigree in him. You get another guy to help your defense. There you go. There's a Super Bowl run for the Washington Redskins. That's how you can sell your fan base right there.
Do you know that? You know what Cam Newton's completion percentage is? It's like 56%. He's underneath Allen, the guy from Buffalo that you like so much.
Hey, that's your boy, Cam.
Yeah, I love Cam. I think Cam's a better professional quarterback, NFL quarterback than your boy from Ohio State Pryor.
Oh, it wasn't even close. There's even no argument.
I'm just taking a little jab at Jesse. I would like to see what Haskins has.
He didn't get in the right system.
You're talking about a quarterback, a coach's job who's safe. He's got job security. I'd like to see what Haskins made of. I don't know. Bringing Cam Newton into that locker room is a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know what where Cam's head is. I see him on social media. I see what he's doing on social media. But
he's a workout warrior right now.
Coach's job safe. I would like to see what Haskins has in the tank.
I would too, but he's going to need some help. They spent a high draft pick on Darius Geis a couple years ago. He just hasn't been able to stay healthy. Mm-hmm. They're turning around, handing it off to a 40-year-old Adrian Peterson, and the offensive line without Trent Williams is not great.
And Eric Flowers now.
They're who the hell's their right guard?
Brendan Sheriff.
He's been injured, has he not?
I don't know.
I don't know if he has or not. He's been injured or not, but he's still a good player. He's a Pro Bowl level guy, but their
defense hasn't been the problem.
Their secondary's atrocious. Their secondary's terrible.
They clearly overpaid for Josh Norman.
Well, they let him go. He's gone.
I know they did.
Yeah.
But they paid a massive amount of money for Landon Collins, massive amount.
And he's a good box safety. They probably overpaid a little bit for him, but I mean,
Who
who
got
knows?
Trey Waynes?
I believe the Bengals.
Okay.
The Bengals actually did something out of the norm. They spent some money, honestly. To
Burrow probably told him, "You better do something,
Yeah.
or I
I mean,
will
they got to
hold
do
out."
something in that division because, I mean, you got the Browns, the Steelers, and the Ravens I mean, the Browns haven't been shit, but the Ravens and the Steelers have absolutely owned that division for years. So, all right, let's move on a little bit to, we're talking a lot about the draft. So let's just, what they've basically, I think Roger Goodell's already came out and said this whole thing where we're going to have a virtual draft. There's no in-person things. I believe everyone kind of like what we're doing right now. We're doing a three-way Skype with us three. So I think coaches are doing that with like their other player personnel, like their head coach, their owner. They're all getting in like a Zoom, or they're doing a Zoom, something like that. Whatever, where you can get a bunch of people through the computer, and then you're just basically calling into Roger Goodell saying, "Hey, this is who we're taking," and then they're announcing the pick. I don't know. Did you guys see how that's being announced? Is it just over Twitter, Facebook? Is it on TV, ESPN?
It's gonna be on TV. I saw. It's gonna be on TV. It's gonna be on prime time too. And I don't know I don't know if it's gonna. I assume it's gonna be on like ESPN or something.
NFL Network, those type of networks, whatever.
Yeah, and it's probably on both. To be honest with you.
Yeah.
At this point, people are starving for sports.
Yeah.
I mean, starving for it. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is the biggest tune-in that the NFL's ever seen for the draft.
It might be.
There's a lot of speculation because they haven't really came out with what's going to happen, like the rules for it. But from my understanding is every GM and every coach is going to be at their homes, and it's their and the team's job to kind of set up their like layout. Like obviously, I'm on my kitchen table with a laptop, my phone, and my charging cables. Obviously, an NFL coach is probably gonna have a little bit more than I am.
But I mean, some of the scouts probably don't. Some of the scouts may have an office and a desk and just use like their phone or.
I'm sure these multi-billion.
Yeah, you're right. The teams can hook them up.
Yeah,
you're right.
But I will tell you this. Here's what I'm scared of. I'm scared of draft trades. I don't think there's going to be as many draft trades as there normally is. And I say that, and who knows? This could be a record year. Just as I say that, but I think that it's going to be hard to get trades in and out of. And I wouldn't be surprised if the NFL was allowing extra time for trades to be processed and stuff.
They said I saw they're not going to have any timeout. Like they're not going to grant any extra time to teams at all. I did see that actually.
In the first round, I think 7 in the second.
Yep.
Yeah, they're sticking to their guns, and I think trades is going to be a big part of it because, like, how often are you all on the internet doing different things like us right now, and something will lag, or I'll start to talk, and then all of a sudden Levi starts to talk, and then I stop, and then he stops, and it's like, oh, go ahead. No, you go ahead. Okay, well then you're wasting valuable minutes right there because you only got 10 minutes in the first round, 7 minutes in the second, and then you got somebody trying to trade. So then you have to run it by everyone that's not in your room. So you're going to have to, hey, did you hear that? Hey, over there, did you get what they're saying? What do you think about it? And then you got to wait. Some lagging takes place. Then you got to make sure you get your call into your owner, see if they're all right with it. Then you got to get the call back to Roger Goodell all within the 10-minute time frame or the 7-minute time frame. So I just think I think teams have to go in knowing, hey, if this player and this player are not there, we're going to trade out or we're going to look back.
I could see your point, but I think my biggest question mark for the trades is why I think there could be a bunch of trades is because a lot of these teams haven't had the ability to do their homework on a lot of guys. So we could see draft picks late in this draft being exchanged for, maybe similar picks, if not a little bit better in next year's draft where, now everybody can go to pro days, then go to the combines. They can go meet with these players. They can have them come to their facility, where we've been absent of that because of what's going on. And I think that's one reason we could see a bunch of trades.
Well, and I think they're worried about like people hacking into either their Zooms or their calls, because what if somebody hacks, say, the Chargers pick at number 6 and says, we're taking so-and-so, and they really don't want to take that player? What if something like that happens? I know a lot of teams are worried about that happening. I mean,
I
if
didn't
they
even think about a
you
hack
call
being a
because
thing.
because you got to call in your pick to Roger Goodell. Especially now, it's a lot different than sending in like I don't know how they normally do it. I mean, they usually send in a call, but I think it's a little bit more since this is
Let me hack
a
the
different
Bengals and
thing.
say we're trading for the first overall pick. We're sending Ed
Yeah.
Monix and our washing machine to the Cincinnati.
There you go. I mean, that's something they got to worry about too. Where exactly the Ravens are up at 28, and they're like, "Well, shit, we didn't want this motherfucker." And then
See, I don't think the problem. This is off the top of my head because hacking didn't even cross my mind. I don't think there will be a problem with a hack going from the call to Roger Goodell because I think Roger Goodell has these people's personal phone numbers and knows who's calling. I
Jay,
think
you'd be
That's
surprised
probably
what people
phones
can
in
do
front
with
of them all the
technology.
teams on.
Yeah, I think the problem is going to be people hacking into these if there was a problem, would be hacking into the meetings and screwing up like the internet and screwing up their calls, not letting them get the information they need to until their pick runs out.
Well, what's the protocol on that? Say your time runs out and you don't get a call into
I don't
Roger
know, man.
Goodell.
This is the first time
Does your
this has
pick
never
get
been
forfeited? Do you just get
No,
the
well-
best player available that Mel Kiper's mocked there?
No, I'm pretty sure this has happened before where they've ran out of time. I think the person who's behind. So like if the Bengals are at 1, they don't get their pick in. I think the Redskins will be on the clock, and the Bengals will be right after them. Right? You see it kind of like they kind of
So
slide
they just
back
get
one.
okay.
So I think that's happened before. I'm almost positive.
I don't know.
I don't either. This is again another reason why this will probably be the most watched draft of all time because no one knows what's going to happen, how this is going to go down.
Well, shit.
Curiosity
There's nothing else
is
to
killing
watch.
everybody. Nothing else to watch. This is probably going to break all sorts of draft records.
Yeah, I mean, it's so weird. It's so unprecedented. I mean, this is just so strange. But yeah, I mean, things you got to think about. I mean, it's a lot more. I think a lot more. I know they're always so prepared, all these teams and the coaches and the scouts. I mean, they're so ultra prepared for this. I mean, because this is really, I've heard Chris Ballard, the Colts GM, talk about this a bunch. This is their job. I mean, yeah, they don't coach anybody. They don't do anything with the players during season. This is their job right here. You pick the players, you let the coaches do it. You're going to pick the groceries and the coach is making you the meal. Things like that with the players that you picked for your system and things like that. But, I mean, I think they got to do, like you said, Jay, they've got people up in their queue saying, hey, I mean, if he's not here, he's not here. I know that's how it normally is, but I think you're really just on your P's and Q's right now.
I think this is really going. I think the rich are going to get richer from this draft, and the guys at the bottom of the league are just going to get worse because I think this draft is going to be all about the teams where their front office and their coaching staff are one in sync, a unit, very good at communicating on the same page. Because you haven't been able to go to these pro days like Levi alluded to earlier, and you haven't been able to do quite as much team bonding because everybody's been banished from the facilities. So the teams that stay in constant contact, that like each other, that have that camaraderie, know what the other person wants. The GM knows what the coach wants to look for in players. So those teams will do good. The Ravens, the Chiefs, obviously, because Andy Reid's the GM and the damn head coach. But
No, Brett Veach is the GM.
He makes a lot of the calls. I'm almost positive.
But Brett Veach, like you mentioned, the Chiefs, they're a good organization. The Eagles are normally a good organization.
Eagles is another one.
Yeah.
Saints, those teams that
have
year
good
after
histories.
Year, yep.
Yeah, it's the lower feed
Steelers.
teams like the Browns, like the Bengals.
Yeah, who are in shambles, who are changing coaches every year. The teams with new head coaches this year, I feel like are going to be at a huge disadvantage come draft time because
and come offseason
a lot of
Are we
time.
talking first-time head coaches, or are we just
Yes.
talking new to
Even
this spot?
in new to their spot because they haven't had that time to gel with the GM and the owner and be on the same page with all of their new assistant coaches. That stuff takes time for the GM to learn what exactly a coach needs at certain positions, what he looks for, what he wants in his quarterback, what he wants in his wide receivers. Does he want a mauler at left tackle or a pass blocker? That stuff takes a lot of meetings and a lot of time to get down and really figure out. And these new head coaches they just didn't get it this year, and that sucks for them.
And the players that switch teams. I mean, there were a lot of good players that switch teams, especially a lot of quarterbacks that switch teams. I mean, they're not going to get a lot of time. I mean, from everything that we've just been told after Roger Goodell and Trump spoke on the phone, I think Trump spoke with every single one of the commissioners from all the major sporting, like the Adam Silver and Rob Manfred from baseball and the basketball, and it said that the NBA or the NFL's on track right now to start in September, just as it was. So we'll see if OTAs are the same. I don't know. We'll just have to see. This thing basically just played out every day by day. So just weird.
It's very weird.
Yeah.
Something I don't think anybody's seen coming. Anybody has seen anything like this. I was told somebody the other day, this shit's affecting America more than 9/11, which is weird. I mean, they're doing things that we've never seen before.
All because someone ate a raw bat. Unbelievable.
Well, now China's officially outlawed eating wild animals, I believe it or not. All right, enough about that shit. Levi, so your Dolphins have made a big splash, no pun intended, in free agency, signing a bunch of free agents. Tell me some of the guys that you really like, because I liked their moves a lot more than Jesse did. I thought they got some, obviously they didn't get any really stars or anything, but they got good quality players that I think Flores is kind of looking for.
Pedigree, leadership, discipline. Those are all guys that, Kyle Van Noy, that's who Kyle Van Noy is. Leadership, discipline. He knows what it takes to win. Also, we're moving. We've obviously been in 3-4 for this past year, and then this is gonna be the second year of being in a 3-4. You got a lot of guys who had a lot of promise coming into the league and didn't really live up to those expectations. Shaq Lawson is someone that comes to the belt, obviously, or comes to my mind. Eric Flowers there. I'm interested to see what we're going to do with Eric Flowers. I don't see us moving him back to tackle. I'm actually hoping we keep him at guard. I don't want to go him to tackle because he was awful at tackle.
Yes, he was.
At least last year, with the 1-year prove-it deal he signed with the Redskins, he ranked 30th according to PFF in run blocking. So I'm very, very excited for that.
Was that in guards or all offensive linemen?
That was at guard.
Okay.
Was at guard.
All right.
And so if we can get that or better from him, I'll be happy. And the biggest thing I wanted Flores to bring to Miami was the Patriots and their ability to draft offensive linemen and develop them, because that's really what the Patriots have done with.
Well, they had the same offensive line coach for like 20 years.
It's unbelievable what they're able to do.
Yeah, it is.
I'm excited for Kyle Van Noy, and I'm obviously excited for Byron Jones. Honestly, I don't know what is in store for Xavier Howard now that we just signed Byron Jones. We have $31 million in cap money tied up in 2 corners per year. Don't know how much how long you can have that on your team. Here's an interesting stat for you about Byron Jones. He has 2 career interceptions. Okay, he hasn't had an interception in 40 consecutive games. That's concerning to me.
Yeah,
the ability to take the ball away.
And just signed a contract where he gets paid like $18 million a year.
I think it's like 16.7.
Here's my favorite free agent signing that I don't think a lot of people are thinking of: Jordan Howard. Jordan Howard has been very, very productive when he's given the lead back role. We saw that in Chicago when he was with Chicago. He averaged last year 4.5 yards per carry. And that wasn't even in when he was given the lead back in Philadelphia. You really saw what you were seeing in Chicago. It's when he was coming off the field and sharing time with what's his name? What's the other guy's name there?
Miles Sanders.
Yeah, Miles Sanders, that he just couldn't get in the groove and get it going. So I'm really excited for a team that really didn't have a running game last year. I think we were 32nd in our rushing.
I believe you
last
were.
year. But
yeah, they had nobody.
Yeah, I mean,
they let Kenyon Drake go, and then he goes and turns into a superstar.
Oh my God,
Kalen Balaj. I really liked him coming out.
Arizona State.
Yeah, he didn't really do anything.
Averaged 1.7 yards a carry.
Yeah, he was bad. Yeah, that was atrocious.
So, Jesse, you said you're not very high on what the Dolphins did, or Nick said that. How do you feel about the Dolphins free agency?
I like that they're doing things. I think they're getting players who have very little off-the-field concerns, guys that they can count on to be there. It's just I think they're spending a lot of money on guys that up to this point, you mentioned earlier, just haven't lived up to the hype. And Kyle Van Noy is, I think, just going to be another player that you see New England let go, and they're not the same because they're not in Bill's defense and not surrounded by the same group and the same scheme. I get that their head coach came from New England, and he was the defensive – was he the defense coordinator or linebacker coach?
He was linebacker coach
both.
and called the plays.
Okay. So, yes, he's probably running a very similar scheme. I am under the – I believe personally that Bill has had everything to do with all these defensive players. Look at Jamie Collins when they let him go for basically nothing. The Browns give him this big contract. He goes to the Browns, does absolutely nothing like he did New England, and then New England buys him back for pennies on the dollar, and he turns back into a very good player. It's just I think Bill gets the best out of guys. I don't know if Miami's head coach can get that same level out of – I know he under him.
You saw, honestly, you saw last year. You saw with a depleted roster how hard that team played.
Yes, they did. And they were the least penalized team in the league. That's one of the most impressive things. From only winning 5 games.
I'm not questioning their will. I just don't – I'm questioning their ceiling, their talent level of the guys that they brought in. None of them scream just X factor stud.
But, yeah. I mean, you're not going to have
good depth guys, good
11
players.
of those guys on each side of the ball. I mean, you're going to have, maybe 2 to 3 stars at maybe 1 at every level if you're extremely lucky. But you need, like Levi said, guys like who can fill a role or do other things well. I mean, are good leaders. I mean, will play hard because I think that's so stupid, but I think it's a very good quality in today's world just in general. I mean, working hard and exerting effort is a skill now when it really shouldn't be, because you should always do this. You should always, I mean, yeah, you'll have your bad days, but I mean, if you're out there on the field, you should give it your all every single play, but not everybody does that. More people are concerned about a paycheck than they are their name or winning or whatever.
I just feel like it's okay. Yes. I feel like it's okay to take a chance on like one what-if guy. But I feel like they're doing that with all these guys. Shaq Lawson has been a huge bust up to this point and played fairly okay last year in a contract year.
Sacks.
Yeah, with what, 6?
6.5.
I think all 6 of those came in like their last 7 games, I believe.
So yeah,
turn it on at the end of the year.
They're taking a chance on a guy who's a first-round bust that we're hyping up on 6.5 sacks. Then they pay Kyle Van Noy, who I could see being a good player, but again, I think he was scheme deficient with Bill Belichick. Eric Flowers, another huge bust up to this point. Big body, but what's he done to deserve that contract? Ogba, this is his 3rd team he's been on after being – was he a first-round selection? If he wasn't a first, he was a high second. I know he went high in the draft. But
I think he was a second,
bust. Yeah. So, like, they're taking a bunch of chances on these guys that have not really lived up to what they were supposed to be coming out of college. Maybe he can get the most out of them. I don't know. We'll see. I'm just not on board of saying, like, oh, they made all these moves. Now we're looking at a 9-7 ball club.
Ogba was the last pick in the 2nd round.
Okay.
And you know what? I'm not sitting here saying that Miami is going to win the Super Bowl next year or even make the playoffs. But I will say you're talking about Bill Belichick getting the most out of guys. Okay.
Correct.
Last year, what did Flores do with Devontae Parker? Got the most out of Devontae Parker. What did Flores do last year with Jerome Baker? Got the most. I mean, Jerome Baker had a great year last year. You are seeing that. You are seeing these players who were borderline going to be probably looking for a new spot, or guys that a head coach would come in and be like, you know what, you didn't cut it for him last year. You're not going to cut it for me this year. But he stayed the course. You did see Flores get the most out of these guys. So you know what? And again, any free agent guy you draft or some kind of or not draft you sign, there's a risk with it. And I do think they gave up a lot of money for a lot of these players. But
they had a lot of money. They needed to spend it.
So, and I would be more concerned. I mean, we still have $40 million in cap. I would be more concerned if we were strapped for cash and we're spending this money.
I don't hate the signings. I actually like what Miami's doing. I like the guys they're bringing in, their attitudes. You don't have to worry about them off the field. They all work hard. I like the philosophy that Flores is bringing to that team and how hard they play, because like you said, everybody last year thought Miami was going to completely tank to try and get the number 1 overall pick. and they played just as hard as any team in the NFL. They just didn't have the talent that everybody else had. So I like what Flores is doing. I'm just not sold on the players they brought in.
Yeah. And I can see that, but that's fine. That just comes with being a Miami fan. Is there's very, very few of us. Okay, so
especially in Indiana, you're a long way away from Miami, there, my friend.
This is true. This is true.
All right, give us so there you got 5, 18, and 26 in the first round. Give us your 3 guys who you want. You'll say Tua for 5, so we get that. We'll get that one out of the way.
Scenario.
18 and 26.
If Tua's there, 5, yeah, for sure. We're taking Tua at 5. 18 sticky for me because I would love to get Jerry Jeudy, that was my hot take, is I think Jerry Jeudy is the last of the
very hot take.
Taken. I do think that he could be there at 18, especially if there's a run on tackles. Unfortunately, I don't think we're gonna be able to get my tackle that I want at 18 because all the good ones are gonna go really, really, really fast.
Who's the tackle you want?
Honestly, I want Mekhi Becton.
Yeah, he won't be there.
No, the dude's a freak.
70 pounds and ran 5.
Yeah, and he had him and Tristan Wirfs set records for tackles. I mean, dudes are just unbelievably athletic.
Oh yeah. So obviously Tua at 5.
Let me throw you this. Let's say someone jumps I'm just throwing a scenario out. Somebody jumps the Dolphins like the Chargers and takes Tua. Tua is no longer there, and the Dolphins are sitting there at 5. Best case scenario, what do you want to do? Would you rather them take the next best quarterback, or would you rather them maybe wait on that quarterback and maybe go after Jordan Love later on in the draft, try and get a Easton, Jalen Hurts, somebody in the second or third round?
Would be the guy that I would take next, I think.
But would you rather do that or
Easton
take
in Miami? Come on, Jay.
Yeah,
that dude's going to that strip club every night.
If Tua's gone and we're still picking, we're sitting at 5 still. I'm taking Wills. I'm taking Jaredick Wills at 5. Then if he's there, I do. And then I think you try to get Jalen Hurts in the second round, maybe with your because we have the 6th pick in the second round.
I think you have that 39th pick in the second round. Yeah.
Yeah. So
39 overall. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would go for Hurts in the second round then, but I would take Wills at 5 if Tua's not there. And then I would hopefully at 18 try to secure one of those receivers, or if we didn't have to trade up from 5, maybe at 18 trade up closer to the top of closer to the 10, 11, 12 spot, and then get a receiver there. So if I was sitting at 18 after taking Jedrick Wills, or I can't say his first name, Jedrick Wills, then I would probably take Kayvon Chasen probably at 18.
Okay.
Pass rusher from LSU.
Pass rusher. Protect the quarterback and get to the quarterback, right?
But I just don't see them drafting Kayvon Chasen when they just went out and spent almost $30 million between Van Noy, Shaq Lawson, and Ogba.
But see, here's the thing about Shaq Lawson and Ogba. Shaq Lawson, I think Van Noy is going to be a primary stand-up guy. Shaq Lawson and Ogba can play with their hands in the dirt too. So we got a lot of players who play on the edge that are really scheme diverse.
You're doing a lot of what New England did, where Bill's just got a lot of guys that can play multiple positions.
Yeah, so I would love that. That's who I would take is the Kayvon Chasen there. I think he fits a need. I think if you don't go pass rusher, I like Patrick Queen at 18. I do. I think we could use another interior linebacker. And then at 26, I would probably end up taking Jonathan Taylor. Dude reminds me so much of Ryan Matthews. If it wasn't for the injuries, I mean that's who he reminds me of. It's a great comp. Yeah, he if Ryan Matthews, he is the same body, the same run style. I just hope he doesn't have the injuries like Ryan Matthews.
Ryan Matthews always had the swag ass cleats.
Yeah, is Jonathan Taylor your RB1?
Yes. Yeah,
he'd be my running back 1 too.
Same.
Yeah.
After that 40 time, whew.
It would probably be my running back 2 would probably be your guy from
JK.
Yeah, Dobbins. Do you know who I'm not high on though? The running back.
DeAndre Swift.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I'm not high on him.
I think he needs to go to a team with a really good quarterback who throws a lot. Like he would be perfect for Brady because all Brady does is throw to running backs, or like a Matt Ryan in that Atlanta scheme. I think he'd be really good because he's basically the same build as Devontae Freeman. He's just younger and doesn't have any of the injuries. I think he'd be really good there. I think he'd honestly, with a guy like Philip Rivers, who also only throws the running backs pretty much, he'd be good for the Colts. I just think,
this is a sneaky good running back class.
somebody like that, I think he would be really good. If he goes to a team and is expected to be the number one back and get 30 carries, no, I don't think he's going to be very successful.
I think he benefited too much from trying to stop Joe Burrow. I mean, to be honest with you, I think that's what it was.
I don't know. Joe. That's like Joe Burrow's favorite player he's ever played with. He loves Clyde. I don't know why. I don't know what it is about him, but
I think he's going to be successful in the NFL. But again, I don't think he's the number one guy that's going to get 30 carries. He needs more like 10 carries and 10 targets.
Have you watched any of A.J. Dillon?
The guy from Boston College?
Behemoth from Boston College.
He's huge.
They had a big running back a couple years ago.
So was Cam Akers from Florida State.
No, there was another dude they had.
Cam Akers is solid.
The Giants drafted this guy. Brick Hands. He had Brick. What was his name?
I don't know.
From Boston College. Are you thinking of David Wilson, the track guy?
No.
Is that who you're thinking of? Or Jesse's boy, Elijah Holyfield?
I'll text you guys about it later.
Elijah Holyfield was a fucking bowling ball, dude. That dude was running down everybody.
Yeah, a bowling ball that ran a 5.3 at the combine.
Yeah, so going to the wide receivers, I have Ruggs as my wide receiver one. I do. I think he is exactly like Tyreek Hill without the off the field problems.
Yeah.
I think that
teams
are going to favor that speed after seeing what they were able to do with Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes.
I've seen that comp too, but I think they make that comp because of the speed. I think Tyreek Hill's thicker. I think he's more aggressive going to get the ball, and I think he's more aggressive after the catch. I think he's the fastest player I've ever seen.
But I mean, if you add Ruggs instantly to any offense, I mean, you saw the Eagles when they lost to Sean Jackson. I mean, that speed element. You saw the Colts when they lost T.Y. Hilton.
Well, there you go.
You see the Chiefs' offense when they lose Tyreek.
I think Ruggs is closer to Deshaun Jackson than he is to Tyreek Hill.
Agreed.
How they play. I just think Tyreek Hill's way more aggressive on the field at going and snatching the ball, looking for the contact after. I don't know. I get the comparison because of how fast they are and how electric they are with the ball.
Game breaking. And Deshaun Jackson, when he was early in his career, he was a game breaker.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. He still was last year. He just got hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally, I think CeeDee Lamb's the best receiver in the class. I think he's better than, all around, I just think he's the best guy. I think he's got the best hands. I think he runs great routes. His just ability to go up and get the ball. I don't think he's going to go to the Cardinals anymore because they got Hopkins, but I would have loved to have seen him with Kyler again in Arizona. But
do you guys have a tight end one?
Cole Kmet.
Cole, from Notre Dame. Yeah, it's a terrible tight end class.
I think one guy that no one's, because everybody's talking about Kmet and everybody's talking about Thaddeus Moss because of who his dad is. No one's talking about Jared Pinkney at Vanderbilt. What's that?
Pinkney.
Pinkney. Sorry. You're right. Sorry.
I'll have to go watch him.
Yeah, he's 6'4". He's got almost 33-inch arms, and he's got 10.5-inch hands.
Big hands.
Yeah, and he ran a 4.9, and he did 23 bench presses. I think that he's a sleeper tight end in this draft. To me,
he's just slow.
Yeah, what's that?
He's just slow.
Yeah, but then you look at Bryson Hopkins, who ran a 4.6, and that dude can't catch anything. And he's a tight end I would not draft. Sure, he's got great hands, but first off, he's at Purdue, and he benefited from playing alongside
Rondell
Moore, okay? So there, he should be catching as many balls as he was, if not more. But he was dropping. Right here. Here's one of his weaknesses. Right here, schemed into several wide open catches and a troubling drop rate as a pass catcher.
Yeah.
Sure, he ran a 4.6, but if you go look at Pinkney, let's see here. Where to go? I had it somewhere. willing to gain yards after the catch, unafraid to catch the ball in the teeth of the safeties. And that's a big deal for a tight end running across the middle like that. You want that. You want someone who's going to go catch that ball. And I think that says a lot about Pinckney. The drops for Bryce Hopkins are concerning to me too. So I wouldn't.
See your tight end one.
No, I think Kmet is, but Pinckney I think is definitely a sleeper tight end in this atrocious draft class.
It's not good. I think Bryson Hopkins kind of reminds me just of a Kobe Fleener type. I think Dallas Goedert is a little similar as well. I think he's a little timid across the middle, even though he's just super athletic. But just those kind of tight ends that you just like a Gesicki for your Dolphins. I mean, he's the type of guy he's super athletic, but he's sort of thin. He's got a thin frame for tight end, but just going over the middle is a problem.
He's nervous. He's nervous too.
Exactly.
You can just tell he plays nervous.
You get those alligator arms.
Yeah.
Going across the middle.
Do you guys have a tackle that you wouldn't touch in the first couple rounds?
That I wouldn't touch?
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't take Josh Jones or Austin Jackson in the first round. Austin Jackson in the first round.
I wouldn't touch Josh Jones.
Maybe not in the first round. I don't think he's a bad player.
No, I don't think he's a bad player either.
I like Josh Jones more than Titus Howard coming out last year.
Here's the thing that I noticed about Josh Jackson that concerned me.
Josh Jones or Austin Jackson?
Josh Jones. Sorry, excuse me. Josh Jones. I felt like when he was double teaming up to the linebackers, I felt like he was having a hard time understanding how the angles he had to take in order to make those blocks. Right. So if the run play is going right, you're not going to go to where the linebacker's standing. You're gonna get out ahead of him.
Out to where he's supposed to be.
Yes, exactly. And I think that he had a lot of trouble with that. And I don't know how much tape you've watched on him, but I definitely challenge you to go and watch that. Okay, because he also played at Houston. So a lot of the teams he's not playing or 6 guys. I also think that he, when he was in his kick steps, I felt like he was too high. I don't think he was low enough in his kick steps. And a lot of this stuff that he has trouble with, sure, it's very, very small, but that's something you learn very early into your career as an offensive lineman in high school and middle school. Those are things that they teach you, the kick stepping and the getting out ahead of the linebackers. And I just feel like, I think we've talked about this, Jesse, or maybe you brought the point up to me and I agree with it. I think you can tell if an offensive lineman can play or not. I don't think
there's or he doesn't.
Yes, I don't think there's a whole lot of development that goes into linemen. I think that you either look at a guy and like, can he play or can he not?
And you don't think he can?
I don't think he can.
I think it's very easy to tell too. I've always kind of been on this train where if you have an ability to go pay a proven offensive lineman who's been successful in the NFL, go pay him before drafting a guy high that you are very unsure if he can play or not. I think because that's obviously it's one of the most important outside of quarterback. I mean, you got to just protect your fucking quarterback once you get one. I mean, look at careers that have just been short. I mean, it brings a tear to my eye every single time talking about Andrew Luck. I mean, but his career was ruined because they couldn't protect him. Deshaun Watson's going through similar stuff in Houston, and his coach is just a moron trading away his best players and just doing so much stupid shit. But I agree with that. I think you should go get a guy who has been successful in the NFL at that position.
So who's one player that you guys are actually like just in love with in this draft?
There's a few. I like Jalen Hurts a lot.
Yeah, I do too.
I think he definitely needs to sit and learn before being a full-time starting quarterback. But I would love the idea of somebody having special packages like Taysom Hill in New Orleans, because this is a copycat league. I believe he could do better than what Taysom Hill is doing in those roles, because I think he can throw the ball a lot better, and he's faster than Taysom Hill. So I think if you could set him up to where he has some packages to get him on the field his rookie year.
He's not faster than Taysom Hill, just as an FYI. Taysom Hill ran a better 40 than Jalen Hurts did.
What did he run?
Taysom Hill ran like a 4.4.
That's insane.
I'm positive. I'm going to look it up right now.
He's also like 30 years old.
Well, he's probably faster now, but yeah. I mean, Taysom Hill was blazing at the 40.
But I really like Jalen Hurts a lot. I'm trying to think going running backs. I'm a sucker for Anthony McFarland. I saw him tear up Ohio State as a sophomore, I think. Just couldn't be stopped. And he has NFL bloodlines. I think he could produce in the NFL. I don't think he's getting a lot of love. Another guy, just going down the list, wide receiver. I don't care that he didn't run 4.2, 4.3. Jalen Reagor is a boss at wide receiver. I would love to have Jalen Reagor on any team that I root for. I think Jalen Reagor plays more like Tyreek Hill than Henry Ruggs does. That was my comp for Jalen Reagor before he ever ran his 40. And
looks
he
fast.
disappointed.
I'll give you that.
Yeah, he is. You put him on the field and he burns. So
he ran a 4.44, and Hurts ran a 4.59.
Okay.
Taysom Hill did, but anyways,
Okay.
keep going. Yeah.
I just gave you 3. Who sent out to you, Nick?
Well, I think you know it. I love Justin Herbert. I've really liked this guy since last year. I liked him at Oregon last year. I don't know. I just don't see the problem with him just being sort of maybe a little quieter than being. I think that's better than being a dickhead like Jacob Eason going into meeting rooms saying, "Hey, I'm worried the bee's knees."
Cook or Jacob Eason?
Who?
Would you rather have a Connor Cook or Jacob Eason?
Can I say neither? I don't think Jacob Eason's going to be a successful quarterback in the NFL at all. I think he's going to be an average backup, and I think he's probably going to flame out in a few years. I just don't see he's got a huge arm, but the dude I just don't see it on film. I don't see good touch with the ball. I think everything's 100 miles an hour with him. Even if, I mean, something you got to put touch on, he's trying to murder the receiver's hands and shit like that. You just got to know when to dial it down a little bit, and I don't think he does. But
can you hear me?
You're like frozen.
Yeah, I'm my picture's frozen. I don't give a shit about my picture, but can you hear me?
Oh, we
and
can hear you.
Am I showing up on the audio?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can hear you.
My argument because I don't know if Levi's heard this argument, is I've always been telling Nick to tell me a quarterback that is quiet and reserved that has succeeded in the NFL, and he really hasn't been able to. No, Russell Wilson is outspoken. He will get up in front of his team, tell them what to do. He brings them over.
How do you know Justin Herbert won't?
That's what I'm saying.
He just hasn't done it yet.
Exactly, and I'm saying, thank you, Levi. That's my whole thing. I'm like, I think Eli Manning is a guy who's probably been like that his entire career. He's a 2-time Super Bowl champ. You don't really ever hear teammates saying, "Oh, Eli gave us this just gallivanting speech at halftime that really roared us back."
Players love playing with Eli. They love playing with Eli.
I mean, you can have a different. You can be just an odd guy and just not be super outspoken. I mean, he's just kind of introverted. I mean, he's just not really
For the
going to
record, Justin Herbert is my quarterback 3. I don't ever see him being like superstar.
I see star potential in Justin Herbert.
Yeah, I know, and I don't. I think he could be an above-average starter for 4 or 5 years of his career when he's at his peak.
I also really like the 2 linebackers, Kenneth Murray and Patrick Queen, in this draft. I really like both of those guys. I think they're going to be really good players in the NFL for a long time.
Murray over Queen.
I think Murray's my 1. Yeah, Kenneth Murray's number 1, then Patrick Queen's number 2. And actually, I'm starting to like Zach Bond a lot better from Wisconsin. I think that guy can line up all over the field on defense and play. I've been a sucker for Grant Delpit for the past 2 years. I've always been a fan of Grant Delpit. I still think he can be successful in the league.
Injured last year, wasn't he? Pretty sure he had a shoulder
His play
injury, right?
dipped a little bit this year. I think it had to do with some injuries, but he played through them. But I think that guy can just play.
Yeah.
Go watch Jeremy Chin, safety from
Eastern Illinois, is it?
Yes. Yeah. I knew it was in Illinois. I couldn't remember which one it is. The dude is a freak athlete and covers the field. I like him a lot. I've just been babbling. Who do you got, Levi? I think we've heard you yet. Give some players you love.
Well, I just wanted to talk about a guy that I'm not willing to put him as the face of my franchise right away, but I do think he deserves some looks in the draft, middle of the draft. It's Anthony Gordon, the Washington State quarterback, and call me crazy, I know, and I'll tell you why. He had 48 passing touchdowns this past year, okay, and he had 9 games with 400 yards passing. Okay, in a virtually non-existent running game, he was throwing the ball 64 times in one game, completed at 69% of the time.
That's Mike Leach for you.
Yeah, he's doing what Gardner Minshew did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of Gardner Minshew either, but I'll tell you what I like about Anthony Gordon that I don't know if Gardner Minshew possesses this. Now, granted, I didn't watch a lot of tape of Gardner Minshew, and I
I
still
liked
haven't watched a lot of
Minshew.
them in the pros, so I don't
I'm
know if
not a
he
fan
has
of
this or
Minshew
not. But
either.
I know that Anthony Gordon has a great touch pass downfield. I think that the knock on him is his frame. I think that a lot of teams are going to shy away from him based on his frame. But he's very aware of the pressure too. And he throws the ball deep and just leads the receivers beautifully. He does struggle with fitting the ball into tight windows. So I think a lot of that has to do with arm strength. And I think that's where teams are going to get kind of hesitant on him because, as you alluded to with Tua, very, very few guys are open in this league. You have to be able to make a tight window throw. Yep. But he just sits and goes through his progressions, and you can see him look at the first guy, it's not there. The second guy is not there. Third guy, he doesn't seem like he panics. And he's never thrown more than 2 interceptions in a game. So, and I think that, and when you're throwing the ball 61 times a game, and you're not turning the ball over at an insane rate, I think that a lot of teams look at that too. So I do think he is. It's not someone I'm willing to put him as the face as my franchise at the quarterback, but I do think that he deserves some looks later in the draft.
Oh, he'll get them. He'll for sure be drafted. I mean, especially after people saw what Gardner Minshew did coming out of that system last year and saw how it did translate over.
I mean, he threw the ball 58 times and threw it and completed it 77% of the time. Like, I mean, granted, now, sure, if you throw the ball 10 times or 12 times or 13 times and you're completing it 77% of the time, sure, you're not throwing it. But when you're throwing it 58 times or 60 times for 73%, like, that's just insane to me.
I mean, I'm kind of with Nick, though. That's just like the Mike Leach system. I wouldn't be surprised if
that's just what Mike Leach does. I mean, you saw him at Texas Tech here, Washington State. I'm not saying that he can't play or won't be or any good. I mean, maybe he can be a serviceable backup, but yeah, I think he's more of just a product of what he does.
Malik Harrison, the linebacker from Ohio State.
I love Malik Harrison.
I think he's a fucking stud.
He can ball.
I got to give some hate though on who's the Hamilton guy from Ohio State.
Devon Hamilton.
Yeah,
Tell you what, he was tearing up the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, I think that he's got like 33-inch arms. And
dude, he's a run stuffer.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, well, he doesn't do a very good job at creating separation between him and the offensive lineman. He has a hard time using his arms, I feel like, to get the offensive lineman away from his body.
He just picks him up and runs him into the backfield.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of what I've watched of him.
I don't get it twisted. I'm not over here saying draft this dude in the second round.
Yeah, I'm not saying you are.
Jay wants a whole Ohio State team drafted every year. Don't let him get it twisted.
I will tell you if I don't like somebody, or if I don't think they're going to be what
they're not shy about it.
I will give Jesse that. Hey, you asked about Terrell Lewis the other day, Jay. I don't know how much time you guys have, but you asked about Terrell Lewis. I went and watched him. Oh my God,
the dude has all the pass rush moves. He has all the physical talent. He's had a couple knee injuries.
Mm-hmm.
I think if it weren't for those knee injuries, we could be talking about him as pass rusher number 2 behind Chase Young. I think he's that good.
Yeah, I think he just kind of, due to injuries, just kind of underperformed.
Yeah, and I just think there's plays where he knows how talented he is, so he takes a lot of stuff off. I also think that's a problem with it.
I have seen that too. He doesn't. There'll be plays where if the run's away from him, he'll just start jogging.
He just gives up.
Kind of stop. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he doesn't chase anything down from behind.
Yeah, and that's a big problem I have with players. I hate when they do that.
I do too.
I mean, it comes with you've been a guy. I mean, all of his life, high school, middle school. I mean, he was probably the most talented player on his entire team. He went to Alabama for crying out loud. So I mean, he's just been a guy who's been kind of always super athletic.
Go somewhere where there's a culture set in stone that says, "Hey, this is how we do it around here," and he just fits in and follows suit.
Miami.
I think he'd be a great fit in Miami. It's just, again,
he's got the tools. Yeah, he does. I think he's a really good player.
So Jeff Okudah is your cornerback 1. Is everybody's cornerback 1? I think that's
easy.
I think that's very apparent. And then we all realize the drop off after that, right?
Mm-hmm.
there's no one on Okuda's level. I'll give
And
you
I
that.
think
But
C.J. Henderson can
C.J.
ball.
Henderson is really good.
But he's not Okuda. Yeah.
So is Henderson your guys' cornerback too?
He's
Yes.
my cornerback too. Yes.
He's my cornerback 3. You know, someone that I don't think is getting enough talk. I think he kind of underperformed, but he is the ideal hype
Trayvon
and
Diggs.
What?
Trayvon Diggs.
No, Bryce Hall. I love Bryce Hall, Virginia.
He was touted to be a first rounder coming into this year, and like you said, yes, he did not live up to his preseason expectations, but he does have all the tools to be locked down.
I think he is. If a team can get him in the second round, I think that's just a massive steal. I do. I mean, a lot of the times
He's
you
from
think
Virginia, right?
Yeah, a lot of the time you don't think about getting a steal in like the second round. Dude, if you could get this guy in the second round, I think it would be probably one of the picks of the day. I mean, of the second day of the draft. I mean,
My guess is he's probably going to go third round.
you think so?
I do, and I think that's a good pick to take in the third round.
You know who I think at the corner position I wouldn't touch? A.J. Terrell. Wouldn't touch him with a 36.5-foot pole. He ran a 4.4 40.
I think he's good. I just think everybody has the lasting image of him getting torched by Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, which there was a lot of players that got torched by them this year.
Yeah, but come on, you're touted as the best corner in the game. Show me, Bama. Show me.
Hey, I get you. I think he's a good player. I don't think he's not 1 or 2. I mean, shit, he may be 3, 4, 5. I don't know exactly where I'd have him ranked, but I mean, I think he's a pretty good player. I ain't saying he's going and being Stephon Gilmore or anybody like that. Like, he's locking up your number 1 every single time. But I think corner is a position that you can never have enough of.
Yeah, well, but guess what? We have like 3 guys right now on our roster.
Hey, you're trying to run that New England thing, man, where you just lock down every receiver man to man with Rowe.
Yeah,
if Xavier Howard's not behind bars, he's going to be on the field.
we have a guy that we can wrap it up here, but Nick Needham, who I'm excited about, is our third corner. So
no idea who that is.
I don't either.
Okay, never mind.
He's probably your 4th corner now, isn't he?
No, he's our third. He was our second last year.
Yeah, but you signed Byron Jones.
Yeah, so he's our third now.
Behind
Come on, Nick.
Xavier
Howard, Eric Rowe, and Byron Jones.
Wait, Eric Rowe plays safety for us, bro.
He switched? All right, my bad.
Yeah.
I know he used to play safety. I didn't know he switched in your guys' defense.
Yeah, well, he was at corner for a little bit, and then they put him back at safety because he was just getting, I don't know what it was, but getting just babied.
Let me hear your top
Fair
5
enough.
quarterbacks before we get up here. Row.
Tua. Man, I'm gonna go Tua, Burrow, and then I would go Hurts, Herbert, and then Jordan Love.
Okay.
Those are my 5. Hurts, Herbert, Jordan Love would round out the bottom, and then Tua and Burrow would be my top 2. I wouldn't be able to draft Jay Eason, and I would not be able to draft Fromm at all. Fromm and them are undraftable, in my opinion.
I don't think Fromm's undraftable. I would just not draft him inside the first 3 rounds because I see career backup. And I think there's value in having a good backup to win you a couple games during the season when your starter goes out or can't play.
He's like Chase Daniel.
I heard that comparison. I like the comparison.
I actually never heard that comparison. That's just exactly what I thought of right now.
That's a decent comparison, actually.
He's a career backup, I think.
Yeah. What about Colt McCoy?
Yeah, there you go. Another guy.
I don't think he's as mobile. Colt was mobile.
Colt was mobile.
Eason isn't a statue.
I thought we were talking about Fromm.
Michael Vick either. Or that's what I meant, sorry. Fromm isn't a statue, and McCoy's not freaking tearing it up on
McCoy was at least half of Lamar Jackson.
God damn it.
All right, before we go, I did want to ask you guys, did you guys see that the NBA is going to be doing like a horse competition with Chris Paul, Trae Young, Zach LaVine, a few? They're going to get some WNBA players. They're going to get some former NBA players that I think are recently retired, so I don't know who that constitute as, but it's going to be a televised event where every player is using their court at home or their hoop at home, and then the next player up has to emulate that shot from their own their court at their house.
Cool.
I think that's pretty cool.
I do too. I like that NBA or I guess leagues are getting creative and doing different things.
Yeah.
But if it's just shots, yeah, give me Trae Young.
Yeah, Trae Young said no dunks on Twitter to Zach LaVine.
Yeah, exactly. If they're dunking, then I'm out on him. But if it's just
I think
shots,
they're
give me
probably
Trae
going to
Young.
outlaw dunks.
He said no dunks.
He did, and he tagged Zach LaVine. It was pretty funny.
I would probably go with Chris Paul. I'd go with the veteran, I think. The old school guy, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe
We got to see
'cause
who
he's
else
been
is in
playing
it,
on
though,
his own
too.
Hoop for 20 years.
Yeah.
What if it's like D Wade or somebody like that? Or Dirk. See if they get Dirk or Tim Duncan in it or something. I don't know. But I'm just excited there's going to be something else on, too. I don't know when this is going to be, but you got this coming up, and baseball's trying to hurry up and get their season up in gear all in Arizona and just have every single team play in parks around Phoenix and stuff like that. And the NBA's working at Vegas to try and get their season all figured out.
Hey, after the draft, you guys got to bring me back on.
For sure.
All right. So we getting out of here on that?
Yeah, we'll get out of here on that. As always, subscribe to our podcast. You can find us anywhere, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify. We're also on YouTube. You can hit us up there. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Unwanted Opinions with Nick and Jay. Hit us up, email unwantedopinionspodcast@gmail.com. If you got questions, comments, whatever, leave a rating, leave a review anywhere. Levi, thanks for joining us, man. It was fun.
Yeah,
Thanks
it was.
for having me.
We're getting you back on here soon.
Yeah, for sure.
ASAP.
All right, guys.
All righty.
Until next
ya.
time.
Until next time.